Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live stream. We're going to be showing you a little bit more about some Chapter 2 stuff that's coming. Very, very excited. We've been working hard internally like crazy, as you guys have probably heard us say many times on many different live streams at this point, but it's been really fun, and it's so many fun things are coming. So we're going to talk about all that today. If you have any questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat or the live stream chat on Twitter. We can also see those comments and we'll bring them up as we see fit. And yeah, let's keep it farmer friendly. We're here to have a good time. And okay.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Sorry. I'm in a mood today. I'm not going to lie. A good mood. This AMA today, what we're going to go over is we're going to go give like a general update on everything with where Pixels is at. I have some like things I want to address too when it comes to like sentiment, where we're at when it comes to like market and what we're building. And then also we're going to preview Chapter 2 as well too. Chapter 2 is in a much better spot now. It's finally at the point where we can actually maybe even bring farm hands in like a week to start doing some playtesting in our staging environment. So we'll stay tuned on that. We'll start to do some like live testing pretty soon with like actual players inside of Chapter 2. They'll get basically all their inventories moved into our staging environment. They'll get to test Chapter 2 just like it would be live if they want to. And that's also a time for you players who are like really involved in the Pixels community to start making some content on Chapter 2 as well. So I'll be super excited. You guys will finally get to like get a feel of what Chapter 2 plays like, how different it is. I can't emphasize enough how different Chapter 2 is going to play versus Chapter 1. We have a couple of goals that we're trying to achieve with Chapter 2. Essentially, with Chapter 2, what we want to make the gameplay a lot more interesting and fun. We want to offer new game loops that you haven't really been playing in right now. Right now, current gameplay, I'm not super happy with what it's turned into. There's a few reasons behind this. Part of it's like some coin inflation and some other things going behind the scenes there, which we're addressing right now. And I do want to reemphasize again, we have a bounty program. So if you guys see anything fishy going on in Pixels, we're actually making that process a lot better when it comes to rewarding bounties, reporting bounties as well. We're basically going to have like a multi-sig that's just like funded, ready to go send any bounties that you guys have. So if you know any exploits, if you've seen anything, report them to us, especially if there's any major ones like dupes, things like that. We don't think there's any live in production now, but if you see one, let us know. That leads to some wonky things with some of the Pixel tasks taking up a bunch of coins. So again, if you see something, report it. We'll pay in Pixel. That's partly why we have this ecosystem budget to make the game nice and smooth. And then, yeah, we'll dive into a lot of what Chapter 2 looks like as well. So today we're going to focus on a lot of the spec improvements. So that's actually like a lot of our user base, right? The free-to-play or the people who don't own NFT land, what their experience looks like inside of Chapter 2. Now, if you're a landowner, don't worry. We'll also kind of dive into what that experience looks like as well for you guys. We'll probably go more in-depth on that next week as well. So yeah, overall, where Pixels is at right now, I'm pretty happy with it. There's been some things internally that we're kind of getting up to speed on. And then there's some really cool initiatives that we're putting the work into now as well when it comes to setting up the next year for Pixels as well. So we've talked a lot about kind of the goals for Pixels. Essentially, in the next month, there's one singular goal. Get Chapter 2 out, get it to you guys, because we think it adds a ton of improvements into your normal experience with Pixels. It should make the gameplay more fun, more varied. And then the other goal too is that we're switching up some of like how the earnings work inside the Pixels too. So in Chapter 2, the end goal when it comes to earnings is we kind of want to start to shift the earnings more towards end game progression. So that means if you're a new player who's really fresh inside of the game, it might be a little bit harder to earn Pixels, but you're gonna have really clear goals and really clear paths to get there. It's just gonna take a bit more time. But if you're already a player inside of Pixels who's progressed really far through levels, who has a bunch of coins, who has Pixel in their account, then it should benefit you. So that's kind of the incentive alignment that we're trying to create inside of the game. So what this achieves is it achieves two things, kind of. One, it kind of makes it harder to bot the initial game. Right now, when you come inside of Pixels, you're kind of on a level playing field with people who are further through the game who've been playing for a long time. And this makes it so that, a bot can get up to speed in like a couple of days. So this progression and like inherently makes it a bit more difficult. It also gives us more time to catch the bad actors. One other thing you might be seeing inside of the game right now, and apologies if we've caught some real users who are still tweaking the system, is we've actually made some pretty large breakthroughs when it comes to the actual prevention side as well too. So we've been working with a company called Stitch. who actually has built out some really impressive and interesting fingerprinting technology. I can't go too much into the details about that, but essentially we have a lot better idea of players who are creating accounts from basically the same location, same hardware, all this kind of stuff. So again, we're tweaking this a little bit. If you are running into issues where you're getting identified or blocked from logging into the game, what I would suggest if you're a real player is you might need to remove extensions for a little bit. You might need to turn off ad blockers, or if you have a VPN, you might need to turn it off because it makes your account look a little bit more suspicious. Do note that when we have this stuff live, though, we actually haven't like catching a ton of bot farms doing this. And combining this with the other data that we have on top of players' reputation, like in-game actions, all the other stuff we've been doing before, we've made pretty significant progress. There's still a lot of work to go there. And it's probably going to take us a couple more months to fully flush this out. We're working quite closely with that Stitch team, actually. It's been some like white glove service. So it's been awesome to be making some actual progress on the first part of the funnel there. But then chapter 2 also comes in and it helps tweak some of these other things as well too. So yeah, it's all exciting stuff. So
I'll just add to that though. If you're seeing some of these login issues, I know some of you have been messaging me this morning about it. Go to our help center. We actually have a full article on troubleshooting these sorts of things. So it might mean you need to update your browser to the latest version, or I know a lot of you use Brave, which has a internal ad blocking setting. Like maybe you have to turn that one off, right? There's a bunch of different areas of like little tweaks and things that might be causing these issues. Because like Luke said, we're working with this new service that might be looking at tons of different types of things that usually suspicious accounts might do. And real players might just slip through the cracks in a couple areas. So just go through that troubleshooting list and then, let us know and see how that goes.
Yeah. So if you want to help us with this, like one thing that will really, really help us is if you are having an issue and you're a legitimate player, like create a support ticket so that we can actually start to get some real player data and fine tune this a little bit as well. So we'll go through that. Basically, if you're having an issue, we'll hand look at your account and it'll help us kind of figure out a little bit better how hard we should basically set some of these settings and if we can get some new insights there. So that's great. Some really cool stuff there. And yeah, I think what I'll do right now is I'll just kind of dig into some of the chapter 2 stuff. So I'm going to share my screen first, Heidi. What I want to do is I just set up a fresh account and I want to show people what the initial spec experience looks like. And then I'm going to log into that account that we were playtesting with earlier today. And then we'll kind of show both of our specs and kind of go into some of that chapter 2 stuff. So here we go, about to share my screen. So chapter 2, when you first create an account and you first log in, your new spec looks a little bit different. And the gameplay, when you actually see like my upgraded spec, when it looks like when you get further through the end game, when you're a free-to-play player, or when you don't have enough T-line, you'll see how it gets quite interesting. But you kind of come onto a spec with a few new things on here, right? Like if you see, there's a new type of mine that is on an initial spec. There's new soil. It looks a bit different. There's a new type of house. And there's also a couple of new systems here as well. So there's a new task board that will be coming up in chapter 2. And if you can see, there's also different types of tasks. So one of the things we're doing is basically as you level up and progress through the game, this is a large focus of chapter 2, player progression, you will get new tasks. So the first task that you get when you come into chapter 2 is a fresh account. They're pretty simple. They're a lot easier. And they're all tasks that you should be able to unlock just on the stuff that you get from the spec. So I have this task for pop berries that I just turned in. And yeah, now my experience looks a little bit like what you're used to when it comes to the initial quest line, all of this kind of stuff. There's not anything too crazy here. Like, I have to go water my crops. I have to go do like some of the normal stuff that you're seeing in Pixels. However, I'm going to log out and change accounts here to my other account. And I'm going to show you what it looks like once you get a bit further through the game.
Yeah, so everything you guys just saw were all tier 1 things. So the trees are tier 1, the depleted soil is tier 1. You've got a tier 1 mine as well. And then here's a beautiful spec. This is mine. You just logged into mine, which it works. So you can see I've got different tiers of some things. So I have all tier 1 mines, but there's a tier 2 kiln. The tier 2 trees are the kind of more circular shaped ones with the red trunks. The tier 2 soil, you can see at the bottom there is a slightly different colored. Metalwork, a new industry. There's a tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 2 woodworking bench. So yeah, these are things that I've been working on throughout all of my playtesting to up my skill set.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna make more sense when I show you guys like what my initial play experience looks like. So here's my spec, and if you want to look at my account right now, like this is an account that's really leveled up. I have like all 90 level skills, but I still haven't quite finished my spec progression. Like there's a lot of room that I can go. So essentially how this works is we've introduced, just like in most MMOs or most games, finally tiers of resources. And we keep saying resource tiers. It's not super easy to like understand until you actually see it for the first time. So I think the easiest way to do it is just kind of show you what my experience looks like. So here I am on my spec, and I have a couple of my own goals right now. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a bunch of basically tier 2 kilns, and there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. I have just started upgrading some of my stuff like woodworking benches to tier 2, so I have one woodworking bench that's tier 2. But in order to do that, it took me a lot of time. Basically, I had to go through and I had to chop a bunch of trees, and I had to go through and do a bunch of regression here. So if you want to kind of look at what my play style looks like right now, if you look when you go into these crafting benches, you can see there's two different types of crafting benches on my land right now. There's the normal tier 1 woodworking bench that you guys saw initially. And how I get that woodworking bench actually is I go to Terravilla and I purchase the kit like you normally would inside of the game right now. So if I go down to the Ministry of Innovation, you'll see I can go down here. I can use some of the coins I earned from the task board or wherever I got them from. If you have coins inside of your game already, those won't be wiped. Those will stay respected. And you can go and buy some new kits. So these kits are only the tier 1s that are available. The rest of the kits, you're going to have to go and actually craft and create. So this is going to create like a really new, interesting economy around some of these kits because they're not super easy to get. And they are a little bit coin intensive too. So if you have all the coins inside of the game now, like your progress there will be respected. What I did was I went and bought a bunch of kits, and I also went and bought a bunch of tier 1 trees from the general store, from Hazel as well too. Because when I was trying to go and like level up some of my stuff, it was just taking me forever, right? I didn't have enough sap, I didn't have enough logs, so I found it a lot easier just to basically buy a ton of fir trees. So if you look at my farm, on my spec right now, and this is actually a pretty upgraded spec. If you looked and saw the initial spec that we came into, this is what like a fully upgraded spec looks like. So essentially how we're doing the specs is you can upgrade a spec 6 times. The first 3 upgrades, you basically can get more space with coins. The last 3 upgrades will require a pixel to fully upgrade the spec, and that's how you get one that fits all of this stuff. You don't need a large spec right away, but the more room that you have, like the more that you'll be able to do, obviously. So here I am.
And I will just say, like a lot of the, almost all of the tier 1 resources, like the fir trees that you've got tons of here, the different industry kits are purchasable. You can go ahead and buy them with coins. However, to get the higher tier 1s, you will have to craft them. So the tier 2, tier 2 kiln, you'll have to craft. You won't be able to just purchase that. Maybe in the marketplace eventually, but over time you'll have to work on that. So like the woodworking bench, for instance, you have to actually craft it in a tier 1 woodworking bench. So there's lots of different integrations of gameplay here, and it's really fun. It's like, honestly, I think way more fun than it is right now. Now, one thing before we move forward that I just do want to acknowledge is there's some people, everyone seems to be super excited. I'm so happy that you guys are excited with us, but there are some comments about why do we even need an NFT land? Specs are better than NFT lands. Okay, so we're going to focus today's AMA on showing you the spec upgrades, the tiering system in relation to free-to-play and spec ownership. Next week, we're going to talk all about NFT lands and what they do and how it functions. And let me tell you, you need them. You need both.
Yeah, so we'll go through both of those. So here's the easiest way to describe it, right? So new task board, basically, when you come to my task board now, I'm a higher level inside of the game now, right? So if you look at my levels, again, I'm like mostly 90s inside of the game. 90 is going to be a really hard level to get to. I don't think anybody's level 90 in anything right now. But if you can see, my task board has a lot different tasks inside of the game now. And you can look, there's different tiers associated with all of these tasks on my board. There's tier 2, there's tier 3, there's tier 5, there's tier 4. But basically, the better tasks are going to be the higher tier tasks. And you're actually only able to get up to tier 2 on the spec.
Yeah.
So that's the difference here. We'll show you like a little preview of an NFT land at the end of this AMA too, just to kind of give you guys an idea on that one. But if you can see, the resource changes are quite drastic, where there's these new types of mines, right? Where if you look at the recipe that I was trying to build out, or really any of the recipes, if I come here to the woodworking bench, you'll see that if I want to build an upgraded woodworking kit, so if I basically want the tier 2, which will unlock all of these new recipes, cedar planks, cedar tree kits, so I can get better trees inside of this. Like for example, all of my trees on my spec right now, they're only tier 1 trees. So eventually I'm probably going to have to tear all of these down and get tier 2 trees, but that's just part of the gameplay moving forward. The tier 2 trees, what it needs is it needs the old soil and it needs a bunch of fir logs. So you can buy the soil from the general store, but I can only craft these tier 2 trees on the tier 2 woodworking bench. So that basically means that I'm going to have to build this woodworking bench, or somebody that I know, if I go to an NFT land, if they have a tier 2 woodworking bench, that's amazing. So if I am in a guild and the guild has already done the work of building out all these woodworking benches, then I can go to this guild, I can go to an NFT land and get access to these as well. So here, I have a goal right now. I want to basically build another tier 2 kiln, because the tier 2 kiln, what it unlocks is some pretty cool stuff. It unlocks more tier 2 mines. So here, I'm going to add some logs to this. I'm going to look at the recipes here. And yeah, my goal right now is I want to build out basically another improved mine kit. So that's a tier 2 mine. I have one tier 2 mine on my land right now. And it took me a long time to get this. But if you look in the recipe, what I need is I need a lot of copper. So I need basically, I need a lot more copper ore. So a lot of my gameplay has been going around basically specializing in this copper ore production. I can use my tier 2 pickaxe that I finally got on this copper ore, or on these tier 1 mines, and you'll see my energy is dwindling. I've been chugging energy drinks all day. But yeah, my goal now is basically to get a lot more of this copper.
Yeah, and you can see that mines do function a little bit differently to how they did in the past. So yeah, more info will come on that one. But yeah, you have so many mines.
Yeah, because like that's the
what's gonna be
thing.
really fun. Yeah, people are
That's the
just gonna.
difference. Yeah, that's the difference of chapter 1 and chapter 2, basically. So this resource tiering changes what you need to focus on a lot. And actually, what you're probably gonna have to do is there's like a bunch of different gameplay loops right now. So if you see my farm, I have not really been focused on farming crops. Like I barely bought seeds in my playthrough, and that's okay. Basically, there's different specialties that you're actually able to go down and focus on, where different play styles or like different things that you want to do will unlock different things. So especially if you're not leveling up all your levels in the same area, what you might find is that people who focus just on one skill actually might get early advantages in certain areas, right? Because you're going to unlock the higher tier recipes, you're going to be able to unlock the higher tools, higher resource generators, and you'll be able to get further through the game in certain areas than other people. But these other people inside of the game might focus on other areas too. So there's this interesting combined loop where you have to level up your skills. And also, if you want the resource generators on your own farm, you're going to have to upgrade them as well too. So here we go. I still need a lot more copper ore. And this will probably take me a while, honestly, if I want to get this second improved mine. It's not an easy thing. It takes a little bit of time. But basically what it adds is it adds scarcity as you get through each tier. So yeah, if you come to my farm, basically I'll be grinding out, trying to get as many improved stone shaping kilns so that I can build out better mines, so I can start to upgrade through the mining skill and get further and further through that, so I can start to turn in tasks related to this kind of stuff, or trade the higher tier resources to other people for these things, essentially. So the task board works similarly, where it's going to reward high tier items inside the task board with Pixel. You probably won't be able to get all of them on your own. So there's gonna have to be some trading. There's gonna have to be some like marketplace play there as well too. And yeah, it's exciting. So here, if I go back to Heidi's spec, Heidi, where
Am
are
I
you
still
at?
standing there?
Yep.
Yeah, I am.
So yeah, she has focused on a bunch of different stuff. I mean, it's funny because we haven't even talked about this or coordinated this, but
No,
she's
as
focused a
you
lot
know,
on
I like pretty things, so mine is pretty first and foremost.
yeah, she's focused on upgrading her soils and upgrading some other areas like that. Like I haven't put any effort into that yet because I don't know. I think the mine stuff is cooler to me, and getting further through that. But yeah, if she wants copper, it's going to take her a lot more time because I have so many more mines than her basically. But I actually can't plant the higher tier resources because I don't have the upgraded soil. So yeah, there's a lot here with that. And then when you come into the NFT land, it starts to make sense too. So here's, I don't remember whose this is. One of our QA people has an NFT land that they've started to add some different types of industries on. I haven't joined their guild, so I'm not sure if I have complete access to it. I think they've left everything public, so I think it's fine. But if you look, basically there's different tiers of all of these resources, and all of these different resource generators. So there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. These are quite hard to get, but basically the tier 4, it starts to unlock different tools. So the tools are actually quite important because you need to progress through the tools as well. Like getting iron shears, it's going to take you some time, and you're actually going to have to level up quite high to get this. Once you get iron shears, or like basically the highest tier shears inside of the game when we first released chapter 2, that's going to unlock the tier 4 resources for you to be able to farm. So yeah, same thing here with some of the kilns. There's the whole upgrade loop behind that as well. So yeah, there's basically resources that get you along the way. That's a tier 1, that's a tier 3, and I think this is the tier 4.
Yeah, and I saw a question just now in Discord. So if I have like a tier 4 pick, it will work on every other tier. So the high ones work on the low ones, but the low ones don't work on the high ones. So you're going to want to level those up.
Exactly. So yeah, it's simple and it's not simple because it adds a lot of depth to the gameplay. And basically the approach that we're going to be going with the release of chapter 2 is we're going to get this stuff out sooner, and then we'll be doing content releases. I think the goal was at least every month we want to start releasing more content. So essentially we have like 3 or 4 more loops added to the game around stone crafting, metalworking, upgrading your farms, upgrading specs. The guilds start to be like a really big part of the gameplay when we release chapter 2 as well. And it's going to vary what you experience inside of the game as well too. The next focus after that will be things like pet care. I think that's an initial loop that we're going to be trying to get out right after chapter 2, and the first thing we work on when it comes to the content pack, and eventually gem crafting as well. Yeah, if you look, there's also a bunch of different cooking things that you can do as well too. Yeah, the gameplay is going to be a lot different moving forward, which is good because we need some changes there. So again, if you're used to playing the current gameplay right now and you love it, it's going to change, and I'm sorry, but it has to happen. So expect that, get ready for that. And yeah, we're getting in a much better spot. So I think general game plan is we can start to, again, open this up to playtesting for a small group of users in the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks at the latest, but I think it's pretty close to be able to do this now. And then once that feels good with them, basically, I think the biggest risk when we think about releasing this now is we want to make sure that the task board feels balanced. We also want to make sure that current players, this is kind of the bigger focus, we want to make sure that current players inside of the game have a good experience. They don't feel like they're getting screwed because resource changes have happened. So we're going to get feedback from basically all of the like long-term Pixels players, like, you know, the player W3s, like all of that on how this game feels. So if it feels really bad when we release it, blame them, not us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll get some feedback, basically live, tweak it. And then when we go live with chapter 2, it's finally getting there. I think it's actually quite close. Expect us to do a lot of live updates as well. Like we'll probably have to do a lot of task board tweaks when we actually see what the game economy looks like with all this kind of stuff. We've done a bunch of best guesses. We'll test live with real users pretty soon. And then we'll have to do a bunch of live ops after as well. But that's the general gist of what chapter 2 is going to be looking like. It's going to change the gameplay a good amount. It should move and shift earnings towards further progressed players. And it should add an interesting balance between, you know, specs and NFT land. If you're an NFT landowner, don't freak out, please. This is actually, again, if you look at it, when you look at that task board here, inside of my own thing, if you looked, most of the tasks, because I'm a high level, the ones that pay out best are higher tier resources. So eventually, if you're a free to play player, it might make sense for you to like join a guild or find some kind of NFT land to work on, because if you want to get some of these tier 4 things, like if you want to start to do Butterberry or Sloth Tomatoes or all this kind of stuff, again, tier 3 and tier 4 are only available on NFT lands. So that's the gist. Do we have any questions that we want to dive into there? If not, there's some other things that we can dig into as well. Yeah, if I want to give like a general update on pixels before we answer questions too, I love to go through the data, and I'd love to show some of this stuff. So here, let me pull up.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let me pull up some of this. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, we'll go through this report again. So it's funny. It's funny. I've been talking to a lot of people about pixels again. We're having some discussions on like what the future of pixels looks like with like a few key people, and it's funny because I still think there's like this weird lack of belief in what we're doing with some people in the space. It's funny because it's really easy to criticize projects that are actually building and have something out. Like Pixels, we're doing great in terms of DAU, right? Pixels leading Web3 game when it comes to daily active addresses. And some people see that and they're like, oh, yeah, it's just all bots or it's all this kind of stuff. But a key point that I need to emphasize if people are criticizing us on that kind of stuff is we're also monetizing and making way more revenue than any other Web3 game as well too. In the last 30 days, there's been like 4.67 million pixels spent inside of the game. There are still over, oh, this is wrong. That's funny. I'll look into this. There's still over 200,000 active VIP members. Yeah, not sure why that was just showing before. But yeah, we've done like since in the last 12 months, like almost 10 million in revenue through all the different things that we've done as well too. And there's really no other Web3 game monetizing like that. I think like maybe second or third leading NFT game or like Web3 games are monetizing at like a couple 100,000 a month. So again, like if you want to look at the numbers inside of Pixels, there's a lot of stuff there. Also, all the tech that we're building and all the live ops that we've done, like it's really hard to compare us to other Web3 games right now when these other Web3 games haven't launched and they haven't dealt with any of these other issues as well. Yeah, I don't know. If you want to criticize some of our numbers, like I want to also challenge you to dig into the other Web3 games out there, like start to ask them what their cyber prevention strategy is, because I don't think any other Web3 game is really even doing much, if anything, about it. We have like a year and a half to 2 years of live ops experience doing this kind of stuff, managing live economy. And then the other stuff that we're building out when it comes to reward distribution, incentive creation, there's nobody else really even experimenting with this besides finally now Axie Infinity started to do some really cool stuff with the Axie bounty board. But yeah, I don't know. We just done some cool stuff. I want to defend us just a little bit because there's stuff here that like it's really hard to touch so far. So yeah, if anybody has any other questions about some of the stats or what chapter 2 looks like, let us know and we'll start to answer some questions too. Yeah, let me see if I can pull up some of the detected bot numbers because we're doing pretty good on that as well too. We've caught a couple 100,000 bots in the last week or two, which is great. We're cleaning up some of that data. And I mean, yeah, let's open up the questions.
All right. All right. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, earlier we were talking that was the large spec, the ones that we were showing versus the very first one that Luke showed was the intro, which is the smallest. Let's see what else here. Do we get a free mine? Yes, you do. On your spec.
Just one though, and if you saw how I was playing the game, like you probably want to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, and yeah, some comments about NFT lands, which we'll dive like deeper into next week. Okay, yeah, 50 trees, more than an NFT land. So NFT lands will also be able to get more and more trees, and obviously the higher tiered ones, and they will start out with higher tier ones also. So that's something to note.
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's that's gonna be some of the debate that you have when you like actually start to build out your lands. It's like some people I am expecting to see some lands that are just complete forests. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's like some land that like a guild will provide to their users. They're like, okay, we just want a ton of trees because our users need more planks, they need more wood. Let's just fill this thing out. Some people might make lands with like only mines. I think there'll be specialties. Some people probably want a mixture of both. I think it depends on one, if you're a guild or something like that, how much land does your guild have? And that might be the advantage of joining a guild with like multiple lands, where they might have like a couple of lands to specialize on different things. Or if you're a smaller guild and just have like one land, that means you probably want to diversify and stop at your guild because you probably want access to all the tier 3 and tier 4s in some regard, right?
And so, like, how much soil can I fit? You can cover your entire map in soil if you really want, but obviously you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to put other things there then. So it's all about how you want to play the game and what's important to you.
Yeah, if you cover your entire spec or your entire like NFT land in soil, then you won't have any room for trees or mines, right? So there's some trade-offs and decisions that you're gonna need to make.
hmm Okay, so let's just touch on this again because I'm seeing a lot of comments. Are you going to fix login issues? Or players expected to fix it on their end? So when it comes to different issues that players experience, sometimes it is actually on the browser side, which is like something that we can't fix for you, right? So if it's an extension or an ad blocker that's interacting with our game in a way that makes it look maybe that you're botting the system or something like that, even if you're not, that's something that we can't control necessarily. So you will need to just go through some troubleshooting things. We have like a whole list on our help center, so go check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, if you can give us some like make a ticket, it'll help us fine
Yeah,
tune this. It might take a few days for us to actually
absolutely.
tweak this. I will say it's really helping on the prevention side with some things. Okay, so somebody posted this comment. This all looks nice and good, but won't this put a lot of new players at a disadvantage? So truthfully, yes. And that's kind of the intention. Players who get further through the game are going to earn more pixel. That is how this game will work now. Especially as we move into chapter 2, and that's kind of the intention, right? So it's going to create a good reason for you to level up inside of the game. It also is going to put like, it's not, somebody asked about whales. Not really happy with how it's more focused for whales to earn more and not the majority of the player pool. So I actually want to question this, and I don't want to say it's oriented towards whales. It's oriented towards longer term players and players who progress further. So the one thing about the resource generation here is you also need to level up your own account if you actually want to get the higher tier resources. You can't just put money in it. If you don't have the levels, you can't get access to these higher tier resources. Now, if you are well inside of pixels and you own land, you can buy these resources, resource generators. Probably there's still going to be the surplus inside of the game. We were debating between tax and surplus in chapter 2. We're going to keep it at surplus. So if you own NFT land, you get a surplus when other people farm on top of your land. But yeah, if you don't actually have the levels to farm these resources that you put on there, you won't be able to farm them. So a whale, if they want like, total playthrough inside of the game, they have to do both. They have to get the resources and they have to actually get their levels up. And it's kind of the balance that way, right? Where the players who are actually playing and progressing through the game, they have a chance now actually to earn maybe more than the whales inside of the game. Or if the whales actually, play in the confines of the guild system well, they're able to get a bunch of users to their land because they built out their land well, then they have the opportunity for surplus on top of their land too. And they also probably have a higher draw into their guilds as well too. So they get fees from the guilds, all this kind of stuff. It's a lot of tweaking that we're gonna have to figure out, but we think these systems work together kind of well to reward one, long-term users, two, players who are like committed into the game and ecosystem, and players who have been here for a while as well.
Okay. Can we upgrade mine woodwork smith tiers to 1 to 2 to 3? So yes, but specs can only have tier 1 and tier 2 industries. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, but if you are like a free-to-play player, you can still create the other industries. And honestly, probably landowners who are lazy probably would want to buy them from you.
Yeah. I just enjoy this. You've been playing the last 24/7 playing chapter 2. It's true. We have. Okay. Some other questions in here. When is next airdrop for Ronin staking? So it's not specifically Ronin staking. There's the bridge, but that is happening in 20 minutes. So if Pixels farmland on Ronin, snapshot is in 30 minutes or 22 minutes. Okay. Can't even handle this AMA right now. There's so much new stuff. I know. And so this is why it's been so hard, because Luke and I, we couldn't show you guys a lot of this until it was more like ready to go, but we're really close. Like we're getting there. So now, like, can't even explain even the difference between last week's AMA and this one is just, for us, it's so much more exciting, so much more fun. So I'm glad you're enjoying it too. Okay. What else is there?
Yeah, so VIP benefits. Yeah, VIP will still play a large part in earnings as well too. So there's a couple different things there. One, we still weight pixel tasks to VIP in this system. There's some things we'll experiment with that there, but basically, if you're VIP, you will get more pixel tasks. So one of the things that this progression adds to is now if you buy VIP and you're still very low level in progression, what happens right now inside of the game is basically somebody can buy VIP, they can buy a ton of coins, and they can cycle through the pixel task and suck up some pixel tasks from other users. We've been doing a lot on the bot prevention side, and we've caught a bunch of those farms that do this now. But right now, the game is a little too easy to bot because it's lacking the progression. So this is partly why we're adding this as well too. So basically, the trifecta inside of the game is if you like start to level up your game, progress through the stuff further, you get your access to the higher tier resources as well, and you have VIP. That should probably maximize your earnings if that's your goal inside of the game.
Okay. Okay, someone's just telling me to leave the energy party. I know yesterday I turned it off right on time, and all of you guys were disappointed. That's how it should be. Okay. So you're welcome for when it's not, and I completely forget. Anyways, I'm also bringing this up because we do have an energy party on Friday for Kydro. So head to the in-game calendar or Discord events or my weekly Monday announcement, and you can see the timestamp in your local time zone on any of those. So there will be one. Yeah, so there will be one in 2 days, which is exciting.
But what with my items? Will I lose all my items or take it in chapter 2? So you won't lose any of your items. Yeah, so some of the stuff that you might see is actually some of the items that you have already inside of the game might convert into different items inside of the game, and they might be different tiers, things like this. Our goal with chapter 2, and this is why we're going to bring in some of the users who already are playing the game as well to get their feedback, like the player W3s of the game, like all of this kind of stuff, to get feedback on what this transition looks like as well too. We want to make sure is that it feels really fair. And it feels like your time that you've been playing before has been respected completely. We have to make really big changes to the game because this is how we have to make the game, actually work in the long run if we want it to work in the long run. But yeah, with that might mean some changes here and there. So your progress will be respected as best as possible. That might mean that you have some like higher tier resources in your inventory already, which is good for you if you have that. But they're going to be hard to get after.
Do you remember if this was implemented or not? It was talked about.
I don't think it's been implemented. No.
I don't think so either, but I'm going to go ask. So hold on that. Okay. Asking design team.
None of your resources and storage will disappear. Don't worry. And also, if you have a spec, your spec will automatically be converted into this new type of spec. Any burning platform for pixels? Yeah, so first step with all of this is we want to get chapter 2 out. We want to change this core loop. We want to get this out as quick as possible. There's different things we can start to plug into for monetization when it comes to the pixel token once we get chapter 2 out. So if you see, there's like a lot of things you have to wait for inside of the game when it comes to chapter 2. Like we'll probably start to add some things where you speed up build times or speed up wait times. Things that like a lot of Web 2 games monetize in that don't affect the core loop of the game. But essentially now we have so many different places that we can plug into. Basically, if you want a shortcut, if you want to get like a slight advantage inside the game, you can use the pixel token. So a lot of you have pixel token that you want to use. This is going to be your chance to do it. We'll also add some other fun stuff like that too. But first goal with all of this is, chapter 2, it's been delayed too long. We want to get out this stuff first because we think it moves the needle enough when it comes to player experience, earnings, reward distribution, and like all community sentiment as well too, where it's worth us getting this out before we do this other stuff. So yeah, don't worry on that one. That when we go through like our key metrics that we're thinking about when it comes to monetization, like again, pixels we've done in the last 30 days, 4.66 million pixel burn. Guilds have sucked up a good amount too. So really it's more like 7 million total there in the last 30 days that are locked away. But yeah, we want to increase that number in the long run too. So when we think about the long term of pixels and what we're up to, there's some cool stuff that we're working on. Essentially, it's twofold. We've talked about this a few times. The strategy is essentially one, vertical scale. So what that means is we want to make this game you're playing as good as possible. There's two main things that we're focused on, or I guess three. One is making the game fun and enjoyable for most people in a way that it's not right now. We want to improve that significantly. And these are the first steps to get there. It's going to be a long journey. It's going to be like the next 6 to 12 months of really improving the core systems to get to where we want it to be. But this is the best first step. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to be focusing a lot on pixel utility. So basically, we want to make sure that pixel can actually be used inside of the game by the people that want to be using it. And a lot of what we're trying to do with reward distribution too is the kind of end goal, right? Is we want to be giving out pixel to people who actually might be using pixel inside of the game. So we're tweaking a lot of reward distribution as well. There's basically a whole new internal product that we're going to be building out. I haven't figured out what I want to name it. Scopely has their own product called Playgamy. And I think we'll probably figure out some silly name like that internally for what we call it. But essentially, a lot of the core tech and work that we're building out is going to be around this own internal product around reward distribution. So essentially, what we're trying to figure out are the really big questions inside of Web3 gaming. I have thought a lot about why are we building a Web3 game and what the actual advantage of in Web3 is compared to normal games. Like if we're spending all this time and all the suffering and all this pain building out a Web3 game, why are we doing this? Like, what is the actual benefit of building a Web3? And it really is this. It's the reward distribution. This is something that actually has only been made possible by Web3. So reward distribution is interesting because it's a concept inside of Web2 that's been a thing for a little bit, right? Like if you make an Uber Eats account, sometimes they'll give you a $15 credit if you refer a new user, right? They kind of give you money for doing this. Or sometimes if you join like a Venmo or a Cash App, something like that, they'll give you like a $5 credit if you bring in a new user as well. Like there's some precedence inside of Web2 for giving out rewards for good actions inside of the ecosystem. The difference inside of Web2 and Web3 though, is the companies that were kind of experimenting with that before, they saw some success with that. But if they actually wanted to give out rewards in this manner, what they either had to do was they had to give up some of the revenue that they made, or they had to raise a ton of money. And instead of taking the risk of spending that on advertising, which is normally what Web2 companies do, right? They raise money to spend on user acquisition, which means advertising. And they have to give this money to the companies. And like they play a game of like CAC to LTV. So they play a game of like basically trying to figure out what is the average cost of acquiring a new user when I spend money on an ad, and then what kind of reward am I getting back as the company? Like how much are they going to be paying me in the long run through my products? So they play this game. Now, what's interesting about Web3 is we actually don't do the advertising thing at all. And really, we actually only have one way to acquire new users, and it's actually through reward incentives because of the tokens, right? So we actually don't even have the option of ads. And because of that, we don't have to go and like talk to investors being like, hey, we're going to spend all this time experimenting like this new type of user acquisition. It's really risky, but like, maybe it'll help benefit our business. Like, no, this actually is the business, this user acquisition channel. This is the new stuff that we're building out that really only has been able to be happening in Web3. But this is also, if we pull it off, is the most interesting form of user acquisition possible in my mind, where again, hasn't been pulled off in Web2 because of the circumstances. Web3 is this new paradigm of like fundraising and tokens and all this kind of stuff, which actually allows a company to take the risk of experimenting with a new type of user acquisition. So this is the core product and tech that we're building out. It's really only been possible because of Web3. And this is the stuff that we're focusing on too. So again, key vision here at Pixels. One, we're focusing on making the Pixels game better. We're focused on, making it fun. And then we're also focused on basically like the normal economics of making a game, right? Like you have to monetize a game. You have to make sure that it makes money in the long run. Like that's the only way this all works in the long run, right? Too. But then the other thing that we're experimenting with is this reward distribution technology. We'll come up with a name for it. If you have a name for it, let us know. If you have like a good idea of like an internal product name of something that distributes rewards to users for user acquisition, I need a catchy name for this. I want to start putting it on slide decks and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're working on too. So it's like we can figure it out within this game. If we can basically figure out a way to give out rewards to users that leads to net ecosystem growth, or at least like gets us closer to that, then we can also start to apply the same product and same engine to other games and other things in the ecosystem as well. So that's the key thing that we're building out here in Pixels. That's like what this is all about. It's a long journey that we're going to be taking. It's a big risk. It's a huge idea compared to just building out one Web3 game. I think the difference between us and maybe other Web3 games and other Web3 products out there is we're not just trying to build a game, if that makes sense. We're really trying to build out like a huge Web3 company, which is different. Like we're not trying to build out a game studio. We're trying to build out a new type of company and a new type of user acquisition platform that will power a bunch of games. And they'll probably be all under our umbrella. Like I really love the Scopely, the Zynga model, where they have this crazy tech that enables them to build out games that hit in ways that nobody else can do. And that'll probably be our model too. We're like in the talks with some other games about like acquisitions or like building out under our umbrella essentially, but we'll probably still own all of that. Anything that we do with that will be with the Pixel token. And that's kind of the thing that we're doing. So again, you're a part of this. That's also the cool thing about us giving you Pixel, right? When we distribute Pixel to you, you get to be part of this bigger thing that we're working on as well. So it's really up to you if you want to, be a part of this in the long run, or if you want to take your reward and go. Again, up to you. But note that we're working on some cool stuff. I don't really know if anybody else is working on this, and if they are, we're just like, we have an advantage being with all of you and building with all of you guys, where we have like a giant head start on this. We have so much more data than anybody else, and we're in a really good spot to do this. So, I mean, that's the ambition. Like that's what we're racing for, and it's a big thing. It's a big risk, but if we pull it off, it's great. So, yeah, end rant there. We can answer some more questions.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go through some questions really quickly here. So going back to this one, at launch, tools will not degrade, they will not break, but there are some ideas in the works for implementing that in the future. So we'll see. But as it stands, no. Will the Infiniportable be permanent? So if you guys have been reading along the storyline with Barney, it is a certain weather system that goes through Terravilla this time of year. And we're not quite sure how long the winds last and how long they bring in the power pixels. However, in the future, Infiniportables might be purchasable, but they will always be craftable whenever power pixels show face. So that's the answer. Higher level storage chests. So yes, you will be able to craft higher level storage chests. Finally, I'm so excited for this one. So stay tuned for that. Dungeons. So earlier, Luke talked about how we're going to do this initial really big release, and then we're going to do different content pushes as it comes, right? So cave/dungeons, I'm not sure what the official terminology is yet, will be in one of those content pushes down the line. So very excited for that one. The art is so cool. You guys can already go into the cave. I know Barney's little quest to power pixels led you down there yesterday. A new one was posted an hour or two ago, a couple hours ago now. So go choose Rich and you'll find the new ones. Okay. Let's see what happens. I always think, no, I'm not going to forget. And then I click end stream, immediately forget. So we'll see. We should take bets. Okay. When the next collection. So I'm not sure when the next one will be, but we just had two launch. Play Ember. You guys might know Play Ember, little MBs. So we just had an MB integration, which is really, really fun. They're really cute. There's just one avatar for the whole collection, but they're like little fire walking around. So that one's really fun. And then obviously Pixel Chibis launched recently, and that was a huge success for them. They're like the cutest thing ever. I have a tomato. I love like walking around as a tomato. And here's the tea. They will be hosting an energy party in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that one. Yeah, right. It's so fun. It's so fun. And I don't know if like I would say this is probably something similar for a lot of our longtime players as well, like myself. But I pretty much am only buying PFPs if they're integrated in Pixels at this point because I just love that utility of them and walking around as like a fun new avatar. So I love that you love it too.
Yeah. Some other good questions too. Forget about chapter 2. Fix the bots problem. I mean, yeah. So the bot problem and like all this kind of stuff, incentive alignment. We talk about this a lot. It's like a multi-tier thing, right? So we've done a lot on the bot prevention detection, and yeah, somebody even posted about like, are you aware of scripts that users have harvested resources from the gate? So what I'll say is like some people having login issues right now, it's probably because they were using scripts, is what I will transparently say. Not everybody, so we're still going to tweak that. And like if you have a problem logging in, let us know because we'll basically be able to look at your stuff by hand. And then we'll fine tune some of the stuff we've been working on there. But a lot of people having login issues are also people that like probably should be, if I'm being completely honest. So we've made a lot of progress there. But when it comes to bot prevention detection, there's a bunch of stuff that we've dug into it a ton, and I'll just like repeat some of the high points. There's the prevention side, right? Some of the stuff that we're implementing with Stitch and fingerprinting is actually kind of going well. There's the reputation side. So understanding who your users are by the data and by different actions they have, combining on-chain data, so basically other things they've done inside of Web3 with the in-game data that you have. Like how are they actually behaving inside of the game? What are they doing here? We have some stuff there. It's going well. We're about to start to build out a team that is leading that even more. Then the other part of bot prevention detection, like incentive alignment, is too, like it's also tweaking rewards to make sure that rewards are rewarding real users. So it's a lot of the task force tweaking that we've been doing. So we have been experimenting a lot with the task board over the last 2 weeks. We've been doing it publicly. We've been changing some of the values. We've been changing like the way that some of the tasks are distributed. Our end goal with some of this stuff is basically we want to be giving out more pixel to people who are playing the game and who are real users. So some of the stuff like shifting the rewards to VIP, it's interesting because initially it didn't go as well as we thought it would. We saw a couple of things in there that we started tweaking that actually led to some pretty good outcomes in the last couple of days. It's still not perfect. We're still tweaking around with some of that too. The other part of the incentive alignment and reward distribution is basically some of the stuff with chapter 2 around progression. So progression and like basically rewarding higher skill levels, people that put more time into the game, people who have like played different play styles. Like this is all the kind of stuff too. So really like this whole thing is all tied in together with all this tech that we're building out to actually pull off a Web3 game. It's like some of the bot tech, it's some of the reputation tech, it's some of the reward distribution technology, and then some of the game design too. We're trying to combine all of this into a good experience here, but it's like there's a lot of depth and nuance into actually pulling all of this off.
Okay, so a full upgrade NFT land. Okay, so first of all, I don't know if I'm interpreting this wrong, but you will not be able to like upgrade the land size of NFT lands because there are already two and they're traits, right? There's small and large. So if you're talking about that, that is not possible and will never be possible. But yes, next AMA, we've dove deep into spec gameplay in this AMA. We're going to talk a lot more about NFT land next week. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll have tons of stuff there. I'm so excited to show you guys we didn't talk lots about the interiors of spec houses today, but we'll talk more about interiors next week because they're more exciting, honestly, for the NFT lands, in my opinion. So
yeah, so we had some people asking about like silk sluggeries, apiaries. Basically, the approach to chapter 2 is we're going to leave that stuff alone. So there'll still be tasks inside of the game that are associated with these industries. It basically shouldn't change. But there's just these other new loops on the side as well too. So yeah, there's not going to be tiers of apiaries, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to introduce more. We're going to leave them as is. There'll still be tasks inside the task where they might be used here and there for different things too. That's gonna be some of the balance there to figure out as well. Like making certain resources that are extremely rare in like to other recipes is something that we have to think about a little bit. If they're single use or not, we have to think about it a little bit. So yeah, we'll get some feedback on that. And then after we release this initial change to chapter 2, we'll see if that's something that we want to expand upon. But I think the initial approach of just leaving them as is and still having them integrated into the task board is probably the best short-term approach.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then someone just asked about content creators. So we are working on a new content creator program. I know I've been saying this a lot. We're rolling it out really slowly and just trying to like figure out all of the management behind it and all of that. So yeah, stay tuned. But we do have a form, so you can still fill out the form. Okay, we've got like 1 minute left. Luke, is there anything specific you wanted to talk to? I really enjoyed this little pun. Good work.
Yeah, wow, really good questions today. Oh, so yeah, a couple things. Will the tier 2 and tier 3 industries be tradable? Yeah, everything in the game will be tradable. So yeah, that's why the specialization might be interesting, right? Like if you only do mines or if you only do trees, maybe you don't have the other resources yourself, but like people probably will want your logs or people will probably want your copper. So you'll be able to trade and barter for that. Another thing, story mode and pixels. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I think what we need to actually pull this off is we probably need a new hire that's directly doing story and implementation. But yeah, I think that's missing right now too. So I think I am probably going to move on hiring somebody that's literally just in charge of single player story and content inside of Pixels. It's just fun and it gives you like more stuff to do. So yeah, I think we need more help there. We're just like a little too tight on the team with that. But we talked about we're expanding the team to basically address some of these issues now.
Okay. Yeah, today's been great. It's been a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, so much fun. Yeah, okay. So we've always released release notes. We have like a game updates article on our help center. Yes, it is a little stale. We did not update it a few times. I will take responsibility for that. It's been tricky, but yes, this is something we are looking to improve on as well. But yeah, stay tuned. We will be upping
Yeah,
our
I think the other thing that we'll do too is we'll get content creators inside of staging in our test environments too, so they can prep out content before we release as well. I think that's kind of the goal too. So we'll basically do a freeze. Once we think that we're actually good to release chapter 2, we're gonna hold it for a week so that people can make content on it and then release it. Okay, wow, so many questions. We can't go through too many more today, but this is really good. So what we'll probably do is like if you have other questions, maybe like ask on Twitter, and I'll stay active on Twitter today, just going through some stuff. I'll like post some teasers maybe. Yeah, I haven't been in Discord as much as I want to lately. There's been so many things on my plate. So apologies if you like normally talk to me on Discord and you're trying to get a hold of me. Like Twitter actually is probably the best place to tag me. It's also like a lot more visible too. The thing about me being so active in Discord is like there's like 10 people that see it every time, right? And the chat moves so quick. So Twitter has been probably a better place for us to kind of publicly tweak some of this stuff. If you have more questions or anything like that, tag us and we'll probably answer some of the stuff. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. I know there's still like some other things that are on people's mind about the release and changes to chapter 2. But we'll get into more and more of that. It's actually quite close now. So I didn't feel good about where chapter 2 was like a month ago. Now I feel good about it. We've moved it along quite significantly. Like we're making great progress every single day. It's close finally.
Yeah. I'm so excited. All right. Thank you all for all of your questions, hanging out with us today. We've got Energy Party with Kydro on Friday. And then, yeah, our regular Twitter Space panel sessions on Tuesday. And then, of course, AMA next week. We will talk more about NFT land use in Chapter 2. So stay tuned. And, yeah, we'll see you guys all then.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.